Good afternoon, Sean here from Mountains Garage. If you watched last week's Shop Life video, I was whining and crying that I'd sent some guy $115 for some carbide bits. And I hadn't heard anything in almost 2 weeks. The next day, after that video posted, and probably had nothing to do with the video posting, but I got tracking information, and then later in the week, I received my package full of 281 carbide bits. And now, combined with the ones I already had, that's 18 pounds of carbide bits. Pretty exciting. And it got me to thinking about, I can't speak about dates of the history of lathe tooling, but I can talk about what I know. So I'm going to. Here we go. I'll venture a guess that 120 years ago or so, when production of great things started in this country, all the wonderful things you can think of and the world wars that were won, somewhere in a small smoky shop was a male or female, doesn't matter. They knew how to take a piece of tool steel on the grinder and make a tool bit to do the job they wanted to do. And that is fast becoming a lost art. You probably won't see a lot of people grinding tool bits. You know, an old machinist knows what he's doing. He can make this look like glass. When I cut a tool bit and try to do something with it, it usually looks like a spool of thread. But I can take a carbide and make me look like a hero. This is my crutch. I love carbides. I took a machine tool course with my dad in the early 80s. We used to live within walking distance of Southern Maine Vocational Technical Institute, and we took a night class. It was great, and it showed you how to run a lathe. Well, taught you how to run a lathe. A funny story, they had maybe 20 lathes. I wish I could go back. You always want to do some time traveling. I want to go back and just look at the shop, because I didn't really care about it at the time. My dad wanted to do it. I was a willing participant, but I didn't know how to do anything at that point, really. So, I made some stuff in the class. It was fun. But anyway, the story, you got a bunch of old guys in there, young guys, taking the class, and the teacher knew better. And all the lathes, probably 15 of them had 3-jaw chucks. 4 or 5 of them had 4-jaw chucks. Now, the difference in the two, if you don't know, a 3-jaw chuck, you turn with the handle any of the positions on the square, and all the jaws come in at the same time to grab a round piece of material. The 4-jaw chuck, they're all independent, and you can put all kinds of weird shaped stuff in a lathe. That's what they're made for. But every time you put something in or take it out, you got to dial indicate it back to in the center where the 3-jaw chuck automatically found it. The 4-jaw chuck takes a little bit longer, and people would almost fight over the lathe, but he would eventually have to assign you a lathe, and you're going to get the 4-jaw chuck eventually. He wanted to teach you how to do it. Kind of a funny story, but the complaining, it was fun. So I spent 27 or 8 years working for a large municipality, and we had an old lathe, and then eventually from the high school we got a few small lathes, and they all had, you know, traditional tool holders, and you had to cut your own tool, and this is all I knew anyway. But a hint to the future, we had a new Amco brake lathe, and that had, you know, little replaceable triangle carbides on it. That gives you, on a triangle, you get 6 chances there. You know, the triangle, flip it over and do it 3 more times. So, still never put it all together. Again, I didn't have a lathe. I didn't use it more than every once in a blue moon. I wasn't there yet. So, fast forward, I built this big shop. I found a lathe. I knew I wanted a lathe. I still hadn't, you know, I built some stuff on the one at work, you know, modified a lot, more modifying than building stuff from scratch. I found this nice Logan. I've showed it to you before. It's a 1967. It was bought a few towns over, brand new. I bought it from the family of the original owner. And other than one broken piece, which was available, if you can believe it or not, it's literally, you know, little old lady's, little old man's lathe. And I love it. So, again, I'd grind my tool bed, and I'd put it in the traditional holder. They come straight and crooked, and set it up as best I could, and I could do some stuff. And that's kind of where it stopped. And then I'm not sure what happened. It was winter time. Sometimes I get off on tangents, and I was probably watching a YouTube video, and I saw, these quick change tool holders. Actually, the Logan's a smaller one. This is the Jet Logan. And these you buy the tool holder first. Let me bring you closer. And with the swing of this handle, you can drop on different tool holders. Pretty slick. It just locks and unlocks. So instead of being a big ordeal, you can have a whole bunch of these set up for different angles and whatnot. And with the carbide, again, if you can pretty much get it on the, so you're cutting on the center of the round part up or down a little bit, you can miss by a little bit and it still work pretty good. So setup isn't that hard, and it can make you look like you know what you're doing. At least it's better than, my spool of thread, the finish. That's what I'm talking about. So I got into that. I started making stuff on this lathe, and the more I do it, the more fun it is, the more things I want to learn how to do. And I've told the story, but I wasn't looking to buy a second lathe, but a friend of mine found a deal. He was looking for one. He found two at the local college next town over. And long story short, we bought them wicked cheap. I mean, like pennies on the dollar. And the 2012s, they're imported. The Jet's an imported lathe, but it's bigger. All of a sudden, I needed bigger tooling and stuff like that. It had a traditional holder for traditional bits. But I had already, found the beauty in the quick change, so I bought the bigger quick change. And just about the same time, I've told you I went to an auction, and I bought a whole box of tool bits. And that's when I decided to stop making my own tool holders for my Jet lathe. I already had everything I needed for the Logan. The small ones are a lot more affordable. Like anything else, the bigger it gets, up goes the price. Let me show you a couple I made. So over at the Jet, I bought the larger tool holder. And it came with 6 or 8 of the actual tool holders. And I'll show you a few of those I made, tools that I made. Hang on. For starters, I made this boring bar. I had a bunch of elongated triangle carbides. So I just cut down a piece of round shaft. And you take the mill and you cut a angle on it to actually hold the tool. Same thing here. And drill and tap it with a tiny little conical head screw. And it's done. Now, the black finish is nothing but heating the piece of metal up cherry red and dropping it in a tin of, I got a cake pan I fill with motor oil. And you drop it in. Now, it's better to do that outside. It's dangerous a little bit anyway, but it really doesn't catch fire, but it smokes a lot and it'll really make a stinky mess in the shop, but the black finish is pretty cool. I had a bunch of odd-shaped triangles, and I looked at these. I didn't give them a chance at cutting anything, but what I like about this one is you can put it in the tool holder this way, or if you turn it this way, you can put it in the tool holder that way. If you're facing, you just flip it around that way. This, I cannot believe. When you look at the profile of that, it doesn't look like it would cut anything. And I thought this was going to be a complete waste of time. This is my favorite. It will cut anything. When I do her shifters, I have to take a grade 5 or 8 bolt, it doesn't care. And I reduce the thickness of the head of the bolt in half. So you got to go through the hardened portion. This thing doesn't even make a... I've done it on the Logan with a little carbide, and I ruined the carbide. This thing, I haven't ever had to flip these. I made this 4 years ago, probably. And it is unbelievable. And I got a whole bag of these in here. That's like a lifetime. So I got a lifetime supply of carbides anyway, but this particular one, wow, I cannot believe that ugly cutter. And it kind of gives me hope, because there's a lot of strange shaped cutters that I haven't tried yet. but I will. And you never know, you get the whole tool holder made and try it. It may be pretty handy. This one's not super fancy. I just took a hunk of square stock, again with the mill, cut a angle, and I can flip that around many ways. This works okay. I expected this to be like the go-to tool, and like I said, that turned out to be. One of the things I like about this lathe with this flip-down shield and coolant is when you want to pot off a part, when you actually cut it to size. This does a really nice job. Where the Logan struggles, potting off is a hard job on any lathe, I guess, and this one excels at it. It's just so big, nothing seems to bother it. I say big, but the chuck is the same size as the Logan. Someday will get a bigger one. This doesn't even seem to be like the correct size. Kind of like a T-Rex arms. It's too small. Again, I wouldn't dare to venture dates of when this stuff all happened. Not my forte, but you know, on your traditional looking lathe tool, they started attaching carbides. And I have a whole drawer of those. I don't use these much. I should. Probably should work them in the program, but you know, that's a actual cut one, but that's a brand new one, never been used. Got this protective goop on it, but you know, before they went to the replaceable carbide, they started doing that. I guess that was probably a bridge in between. You can still buy these. You can still buy everything. The beauty about anything metalworking, it's, you know, the new stuff comes along, but the old stuff's still available, and they both work. Some people excel at one or the other, or both. Another example of the black finish, I had to make a T-handle for the jet because I didn't have one when I got it. So instead of buying one, I made one. Had to repair the tailstock, had to make a threaded piece inside. That seemed to be a common failure on these, and that part it wasn't available when I fixed it, so I made one. And I should probably, if they're available again, get one. It wasn't an expensive part, but someday I might need one. All right, that's going to wrap up this short video about what I know about lathe tooling, which isn't much. But I find it really rewarding. Teaching yourself to do something and to continue to do it better and to make cool stuff is fun. I mean, I can't think of too many better ways to spend your time. I like making stuff. I like using the stuff I made. Any day, I'm trying to be really careful out here. Any day you finish with all your hands is good. Always by myself out here, so if I hurt myself, I'm in trouble. I tend to lock the door when I'm running a piece of equipment because I don't need people sneaking up behind you. The beauty of the pandemic is you don't get a lot of visitors anymore. But I find myself locking the door a lot, so I don't want to be surprised when I've got my hands next to something spinning around. And another beauty of the quick change tool holders, I remove the tooling, slide the bed away, so when I want to polish a part with a piece of sandpaper or something, it's just, you know, I got to watch out for the chuck grabbing my clothing or something, but the rest of it's relatively safe. I get some questions about that muffler connected to the air compressor. On the top is a pneumatic silencer. I bought it on eBay because when I first took this compressor up, it was ridiculous. It turned 3600 and it was loud. You could hear it a half mile away. I had to do something. It would have driven me nuts. Well, you know. So I found that pneumatic silencer on eBay. It was threaded, and talking to a buddy of mine, he had a barn full of old mufflers. Actually, they're brand new, but you know, old stock. So he gave me one. It was full of acorns and stuff, but I got most of them out before they went down through the compressor. That and a piece of hydraulic hose. I had to make a flange to go onto my head because I had one that had a square bolt pattern instead of being threaded. Most of them are threaded. It would have been a lot easier if it was. So I made a little manifold, and that cut the sound in half, and it hasn't hurt the performance one bit. Most of your noise in an air compressor is on the inlet. So it was kind of, it's not common, but it works. I guess if I stuck the inlet outside, it'd be quieter in here, but then when, you know, I'd be making noise. I don't really live I live in a neighborhood, but the house is not that close, but if I'm out here at night, I don't want to make people mad. I like to just fly under the radar. So that's what it is. All right. Have a great day. It's Sunday. I'm going to go do something else. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.